woman stepped on the beach, but the sand stuck hard to it. No matter how hard she tried, she couldn't pull it out. The crowd looks on in disbelief. Not knowing what's going on, a man was willing to help and tried to rescue her, but it didn't take a few steps and fell on the sand. Then it was swallowed alive by the sand as fast as the eye could see. The companions panicked as they watched the two men being eaten by the sand. No one knew what was happening. Lisa tried to approach the sand with her hands. A shocking scene appeared. There were tiny tentacles sticking out of the sand. They tried to call for help, but realized that all their cell phones had been locked in the trunk last night for the game. They wanted to drive away, but the car ran out of battery. The motorcycle had been running all night with the headlights on and had used up all the electricity. The guys in the car broke down and screamed, waking up Tom, who had been stuffed into a metal bucket. Tom realizes he's been stuffed into a garbage can, gets angry, and starts to struggle. Tom's companions stop him and tell him that there are monsters in the sand, and the two of his companions have already been eaten alive. Tom panicked and could only remain motionless in the well trunk. To wait for help, the crowd had to stay put. Under the scorching sun, Tom was tanned. Suddenly, Tom saw a cracked eggshell not far away. They analyzed that the monster might have hatched from this egg. They found this egg on the beach last night. It's only been one night. The monster shouldn't be too big. Lisa took out the sausage and threw it on the beach. The sausage was quickly swallowed by the sand. When she threw a second sausage, a seagull took it away. Finally, the last sausage landed on the sand. Neither swallowed nor sunk. That means it's a safe place. But the distance was too great, and the problem was how to get there. John had an idea. He took the surfboards from the car and carefully laid them on the ground. He takes a few steps, but nothing happens. He then alternated between moving forward and was about to enter the safety zone when the board suddenly started to move underneath his feet. John could only support himself with his hands on the table, but the board was still moving. John used all his strength to support himself. Suddenly, there were three tentacles sticking out of the sand. The man was lying on the table as hard as he could, and he didn't move. There were countless tentacles sticking out of the sand. Suddenly, the board moved. The tentacles latched onto his stomach. With all his might, he jumped onto the table, but his stomach had already been stung by the monster, as if he had been stung by thousands of jellyfish. He endured the pain and searched his backpack for something useful. Suddenly, a banana fell on the floor. John subconsciously reaches out to pick it up and realizes that he's not being attacked by the monster. He moved slowly with the banana and realized that as long as he was close to the fire, the monsters wouldn't dare to attack him. It turns out that fire is the monster's nemesis. In order to prove his conjecture, John jumped onto the fire last night. Sure enough, the monster didn't attack him. Just as he was celebrating, a sudden sharp pain made him vomit. The wound on his stomach also began to deteriorate, and pus bags of various sizes appeared. The tearing pain made John fall into a coma. Lisa looked at the uncertainty of John's life and death and decided to take the plunge. She took the cell phone out of the trunk, then carefully stepped on the car's bumper and used the key to open the trunk. But the space is too tight, and she can't open it far enough to get to the phone. She tried to open it again and was about to get the cell phone when a police car suddenly arrived in the distance. The sound of the siren causes Lisa to lose her center of gravity, and her hand gets caught in the trunk. The companions hurriedly waved to the approaching police car for help, warning him that there were monsters in the sand. Do not get out of the car, just call for help. But the policeman didn't believe them and opened the car door and stepped out. Surprisingly, the policeman was unharmed. It turned out that he was wearing overshoes, so the monster couldn't attack him because he couldn't reach his sin. He hadn't taken a few steps when the keys on his waist suddenly fell to the ground. He reached out his left hand to pick it up, but he didn't realize that his hand was firmly stuck to the sand. He couldn't pull it out no matter how hard he tried. As he screamed, half of his arm was sucked into the sand. The policeman then took out pepper spray, and the monster was pulled back. But when he pulled out his arm, half of it had already been swallowed. Soon the policeman was also swallowed by the monster in the sand. The crowd's hopes were dashed once again. The policeman decided to try again. He signaled Mary to throw the towel over and tie it to her feet. Maybe that would isolate the monster, but the guardrail broke down in a second. No sooner had he received the towel than the guardrail snapped. The man lies motionless on the beach. Countless tentacles came out of the sand and firmly attached him to the sand. It turns out that there is a man-eating monster hidden on this beach. In just half an hour, the man was left in a pool of blood. Lisa watched her companions being devoured one by the sand and decided to do something about it. She broke down the guardrail and jumped onto the sand to make a simple log bridge. She then worked with Mary to get her companions out of the trunk. They moved along the log bridge towards John and were about to reach the table. Suddenly, the monster and the sand started shaking the guardrail. The companion accidentally lost his balance and fell into the sand and was instantly devoured by the monster. The monster started to attack Tom again. Tom has been cowering in the trash can for a long time, and the edges of his body have rubbed with blood. The monster followed the blood into the garbage can and manifested several thick tentacles, which firmly entangled Tom. The monster pulled Tom, who weighed 300 pounds, into the trash can in a flash. While the monster was attacking Tom, Mary wrapped a towel around her feet and quickly climbed into the police car. Just when they thought they were safe, a huge tentacle started shaking the police car from deep underneath. Mary couldn't stand still and crashed into the car. The impact made her faint. At night, Mary woke up. She found the lifeboat in the car and laid it on the sand. John and Lisa followed the lifeboat to the car. Just as Lisa was about to step into the car, a tentacle with an eerie blue glow reappeared. The tentacle slammed the door shut. Lisa took the opportunity to climb into the car. She suddenly remembered that the monster was afraid of fire, so she grabbed the gasoline in the car and poured it on the edge of the car. She lit the monster's tentacles on fire, and the monster was dazed with pain. The tentacles started to bend around. Kelly took the opportunity to hide in the car. The monster's tentacles quickly branched out. It tried to open the window, but it couldn't. Soon the monster was gone. They were safe in the car, and they slept. The next day, a tourist woke them up. Lisa tried to stand on the beach, seeing that the tourists hadn't been swallowed by the sand. Sure enough, the monster was gone. They helped each other off the beach. John died in the car from his injuries. By now, the monster had returned to the sea and was looking for the next beach.